Hello, hello. Got my short little intro. Hype me up. Let me go ahead and remove that from the field. Pretty sure one of you are going to tell me my audio is okay. At least it appears to be. Do I need to turn my audio up? All right. Oh, you're going to see hundreds of pictures today. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Audio's good. Thank you. Thank you. So, real fast going through it. If you're interested in Cypher, the link is in the description box. Doing some great things. Also, the children's nursery rhymes. PD. It's a 1,048 pages, beautiful artwork. This is strictly for kids. I mean, adults can find value in the nursery rhymes, but some of the stories are children's stories. That link is in the description box. Tomorrow, I'm going live with an expert on human design. Somebody I have personally met and dialogued with. He came to one of my meetups, or a couple of my meetups, and he's going to be on the show tomorrow. He'll be educating me. Maybe you guys already know about human design. I don't know. But he'll definitely be educating me. So that was my third announcement. Let's see. You're going to see an errant ad here. Michelle Johnson, ND, Synergetics Health and Wellness. You'll be seeing her ad here. And I do believe I've got 4 more after hers, but errant ads are back online. If you want to showcase what you do for the community on Archaics, this is where you do it. This is where you do it. I should have put errant ad email, but it's just archaics138@gmail.com, like all the other emails, really. I'm trying to hone everything into one email. So yeah, we have a very powerful presentation today. It's going to put a lot of things together for those of you who are interested in what we call dinosaurs, giant reptiles and amphibians of the vapor canopy period, vapor canopy mechanics and techniques. How well established is vapor canopy in science? Oh, this is going to surprise you guys. You're going to be really surprised just how much it's been published and kept from the public on vapor canopy. How vapor canopy answers for one of the greatest enigmas of history. It is an enigma that has sent many YouTubers down rabbit trails that they've been basically making conclusions because they weren't educated on vapor canopy history, how it is cyclical, it comes back, why the polar ice caps melt, where that moisture goes, what happens during the volcanism, how the mesosphere accumulates all these particulates and moisture at the same time and creates the canopy. And then after a while, it hits critical mass and the canopy falls. So I'm finding now three vapor canopy periods, and each one to me lasted about 350 years. So this accounts for a major, it's an answer that answers a sweeping amount of basically, I don't want to call them conspiracy theories because there is something to it. But there's a lot of people who follow flamenco. There's a lot of people who follow the Tartarian narrative. And vapor canopy answers all of this. Our establishment historians have covered this up by telling us the truth. They call it the Dark Ages. And we're led to believe it's dark because of the collapse of literacy. And that too is true. But it was dark for a whole nother reason. And when the Dark Ages was over, the Middle Ages began. The Middle Ages all of a sudden exploded with urban cities, exploded with the building of new cathedrals concerning an old religion. Exploded with the founding. I've already got videos establishing all of this. Exploded with the founding of universities. All the colleges and universities just start popping up everywhere. At the same time, the cathedrals were. At the same time, the stone castles were built all over Europe. All 4 of these things happened at the exact same time. You know what also happened? The dragon ships of the Vikings came out of the Dark Ages period and began founding all these amazing fortresses and citadels and civilizations, and they settled down, became the Normans, And from Normandy, northern France, they exported culture and sophistication and brought the Middle Ages into a period of enlightenment to where it led to the Renaissance. But the Dark Ages is the key, and it starts with 522 AD. We'll get to that. Let's listen to our errant ad right now. This is Michelle Johnson, ND, Synergetics Health and Wellness. Let's check out what she has to say. As you know, it is my custom to play the ad toward the beginning, but always at the end also of each video. Let's see here. Let me find her ad.
To Synergetics Health and Wellness. This is Dr. Michelle Johnson. Today we are talking about getting more out of life through a guided process called recoding. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the noise of the collective or trying to break and start new habits, but you just can't break through, you're going to want to hear this. Learn how to create your own reality tunnel. With the recoding process, you can break free from limiting beliefs and shape your unique path via access to your superconscious. Tap into your superconscious and discover deeper insights. This is the highest level of consciousness, the part of you that knows what you truly want and what you are here to create. And it is accessible through intentional focus, command, or choice, rather than willpower or effort. Recoding helps you identify and reframe subconscious programming that holds you back, empowering you to embrace new possibilities. Contact me, Dr. Michelle Johnson, at Synergetics Health and Wellness. Call 702-240-3533 and unlock your potential today.
There it is. It's a good one. That's a good one. There it is. See, the lighting in my studio looks okay. Let me move that a little bit. Is that better? I can't tell if it's better or not. I still got some imbeciles coming into my chat talking about those books are fake. Viva Las Veggies. I was emailing her today. I just found out she's also somebody else I emailed called Viva Las Compost. That's not a joke. Patrick Webb said, CIA books, moderators, keep your eyes on that guy. Anything out of line, man, block him. Yeah, you came into the right chat if you're expecting zero tolerance. So, you guys know I have a long-standing tradition going back about 4 years now, where if there is anybody who has any problem whatsoever with the research output, with my conclusions on all my data sets, with my thesis on the Phoenix phenomenon, or the Great Pyramid, or Nemesis X, or any of the things that I present, Medusa effect, all these different research avenues that I have taken. If you have any issue with it whatsoever, you are absolutely invited to provide your counterpoints and send them to me. My emails are public. Send them to me. And before I even make answer, I will post your issues, your points, or your arguments on all the Archaics venues. We got like 13 Archaic sites, Archaics Twitter, and on YouTube community. I will post it. I've been saying this for 4 years, guys. If you have an issue, if you're another YouTuber and you take issue, instead of crying or finding all the other Archaics haters and trying to build a hater network, instead, why don't you do something positive and just issue out all your problems with whatever it is and let me post what you send me to my whole community before I give answer. I don't see how I could ever be more fair. I mean, I don't know why anybody hasn't taken me up on it yet. I mean, there's so many people detracting. There's so many people that take issue. There's so many people crying on other YouTube channels. Why don't you just take me up on my offer and I will freely publicize everything you send before I give answer. I might take a couple weeks, let people cogitate on it, and then I'm going to give answer. But I don't know why nobody's taking me up on it. Instead, they just go on their YouTube channels and cry, and a bunch of uninformed individuals that don't know anything about the Archaics research, don't know anything about my integrity, don't know anything about anything, just pop up in my comment section and then get permanently blocked for saying shit that's out of line. So, you know what? Maybe you should investigate the guy you're hating on and his claims before you just pop up in the comment section believing what another YouTuber says. It's pedantic. It's ridiculous. And I've got zero tolerance, and I will maintain that policy. Come into my chat with that BS, you'll be gone forever. There's too many souls. There are too many souls in the field that are trying to get badly needed information that they can't get themselves for me to be wasting any time on morons. It's as simple as that. So, I have a friend. I consider him a friend. He's been following me for a while. I've never met him, but he's we engage in the comment sections every once in a while. We've dialogued, but he goes by Vincent, 1993 on X, and I just found out he's in the hospital, and I have a question because he told me that he suffers acute reoccurring pancreatitis. I think that's how you say it, pancreatitis. And he's been going back hospitalized for the past 2 years for it. Gets out, he's fine, then he goes back. So we have so many unique healers in the Archaics community. I was just wondering, does anybody, because he's listening now, I was wondering if anybody had any advice for somebody who who's suffering from a lot of pain from acute pancreatitis. Is there some type of homeopathic remedy? Is there some type of psychosomatic remedy? After the video, you can put it in the comment section, or you can put it right here in the live chat if you're a homeopath, or if you have specialist information, or if you have an opinion on it that could help out. So that's for Vincent. I don't know much about it. I don't know much about it at all, but I did tell him that I was going to give him a shout out about it. He didn't ask me to, but I did tell him. So like I said, I'm going live tomorrow with an expert on human design, real likable guy, a very good communicator. I've met him personally. I'm also doing one, maybe two very large interviews. I'm not going to tell you who they are right now. This is huge podcasts that don't have much to do with YouTube at all. This is an entirely different audience. I'll be doing that this month. It's already scheduled. Maybe two of them with a whole separate network that's even bigger. So I've been getting a lot of invites lately. I don't accept them all, but some of them are pretty unique. Let's see. That's it. Well, we'll get back to Michelle Johnson as soon as this is over with, but let's go ahead and look into Procopius. The Secret History by Procopius. He's the one that introduced the information that the world was basically falling apart in the 6th century AD. And we know it did. Multidisciplinary studies of the 6th century AD basically shows that it was an absolute depopulation of the world. Volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, plagues, social unrest, wars, everything just dissolved into chaos. And it began the period called the Dark Ages, but it wasn't dark just because history stopped being recorded in many areas. It was dark because the sun disappeared. Yeah, I'm not making that up. There's a lot of people that can look into this, that can easily verify this information. All right. So, first thing we're going to do, we're going to be going fast through this presentation because we got close to 1,000 images to look at. Stuff, 1,000 data points. Pretty close to it, guys. I'm not exaggerating. So let's get to it. Let's share my screen. I'm going to share my screen right here. Nanny Boo Boo talking about those dragons. You just don't even know what you're about to see. Some of this is going to blow your mind. I know because it blew mine. And I've been researching this for a while. You guys are going to see a lot of imagery, a lot of photographs, old paintings, statuary, engravings, petroglyphs, straight out of the books of the Archaics Library. Took a while to put all this together. Where is my share? Oh, I'm already there. Okay, I'm already there. I'm sorry. So you guys know that a while back, I did a special presentation, The Harrowing Truth on the Origin of the Anno Domini calendar. Our AD calendar now is because of an event in 522 AD. 4 years later, the Roman Catholic Church had Dionysius Exiguus, an agent of the church and chronographer, to design a whole new calendar to hide a timeline that involved cycles of 552 years. I didn't make any of this stuff up. Alexander Del Mar in 1900 published a book that told the whole story. And I cite that book over and over. It's how the Dark Ages began. In 522 AD, a sky dragon appeared and started destroying the world. 522 AD was a phoenix year on the 138-year timeline, but it's also on the 552-year phoenix cycle timeline of epic destructions. It's also the only year in all of world history going back 8,000 years before 5000 BC and going forward over 8,000 years after 2106 AD. That Phoenix and the Nemesis X object appeared in the sky in the same year. It is the only year in all of history going forward and backward in time. Phoenix and Nemesis X were here together in the system at the same time, 522 AD. This is what started the Dark Ages. I have this video called The Harrowing Truth in the Anno Domini calendar. Something terrible happened. Something absolutely terrible happened. It was recorded all in the skies. Many ancient historians talk about it. Geologists in the scientific community talk about how the sun darkened. They believe because volcanic activity was recorded, they believe that volcanoes were the cause. Now, I've already covered these things many times. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. But we have many historians like Zacharias of Mytilene talking about the dark sun. This was a 25-year period of destruction and darkness and all kinds of things happening. Plague, the whole Anno Mundi calendar of Dionysius Exiguus, which laid the groundwork for the BC AD system. It was the calendar we're on today was specifically designed for this reason, to hide this destruction. There was a massive plague. Scientists claim that AD 536, which was 14 years later during the 25-year darkness, was the worst year to be alive. It was plagues, earthquakes, tsunamis, all kinds of things. These things continued for 25 years. One of the greatest cities of the ancient world, Antioch, at nighttime suffered an earthquake. The stone city buried almost the entire population alive. The next day it burned, suffocating and burning alive all those trapped in the rubble. It is estimated that 200,000 people met their deaths in 526 in the city of Antioch alone. Oh, here's Alexander Del Mar tells the story of the creation of the calendar and how the new calendar completely erased the former 552-year calendar. So, a bunch of articles all about what's going on. A lot of people talk. There's a lot of scientific evidence that something fell out of the sky and destroyed Great Britain. Things all over the world were happening. It was a massive decrease in population, and the climate changed significantly. worldwide starvation and depopulation. Within 30 years, the world had been brought down to about 11 to 12% population. That's 88 to 89% of the world's population died. You can't measure it by, I mean, I've already provided in Archaics a lot of historical material about 522 to 540 and all the things that happened in the world at that time. And then after that, history just kind of just disappears. And we have a bunch of supposition that was written in the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th centuries about what happened, but we don't have hardly any surviving materials from the Dark Age period. So it's very interesting that vapor canopies, when a vapor canopy is created by volcanism and the red dust particulates coming off of Phoenix, and these combined together fill the mesosphere with material that blocks out the sun, increases atmospheric pressure. The volcanoes going off all over the world are releasing ambient radiation, which creates giantism. This is something that is a well-established fact. That things were larger in the ancient world is absolutely true, but the problem is that we have too many examples of people, of flora and fauna that are still gigantic even up to relatively recent times. So, a lot of creationists and Christians want to claim that all the giantism and all the giants and all the vapor canopy stuff, the firmament and the sky falling, only applies to the pre-flood world, and they're wrong. It happened again in the Ogygian delusion, 1687 BC, which started a 25-year period of darkness. And in Hesiod, we find out that this period also created a small window when giants were being born all over the world again. It began the age of heroes and giants. And I've shown this, that the 5 ages of Hesiod. So we can't ignore that. As I've shown just recently in my California was an island video, we can't ignore that giant trees are all over the world. And I've already shown these in the other video, but I'm just trying to remind you right now. That's why I'm going through them fast. Look at the size of these trees. So you can't say that giant trees didn't exist in a vapor canopy world when some of the giant trees are still alive today, and they were alive during the last vapor canopy. That's why they are the size that they are today. Look at the size of these trees. Imagine whole forests. Now, these are just copse. These are just groves. These are just isolated groups of trees, because we don't have whole forests full of these trees anymore. But if giant trees left over from a more recent vapor canopy exist still today, and we know they do because we're looking at our fellow human brothers and sisters taking pictures with them. Many of you have visited them and seen them for yourselves. So for these giant trees to have existed and persisted all the way up till today, we cannot say that gigantic forests did not once exist. And this is one of the tenets of vapor canopy ecology. The forests were gigantic. I'll just go through these. I'm not, like I said, trees are not my presentation. I'm just showing giantism among flora. Ordinary sized humans, gigantic trees. Here's what's really interesting. Dendrochronology shows that this gigantic sequoia goes back to 550 AD. That means this tree started growing right before the great Justinian Darkness period, the Dark Ages, and the vapor canopy that we went through. Giant trees are just an example that giantism is very real in plants, and that these are just relics of the last vapor canopy period, which only lasts a few centuries. So, at the same token, not just trees, but even up to relatively very recent times, giantism has existed in humans as well. So let's look at that too. Look at these photos. So remember, something is true somewhere. It's probably true everywhere. This applies also to the coordinates of time. If something is true today, it's probably truer. It's probably truer of yesterday. Look at the size of this guy. He's Asian, probably Mongolian. A lot of Mongolians are huge. Here's just relatively recent artwork. Look at the size of that sword. No man today would comfortably be able to use that sword. Here's an engraving. That's not a child. That's a full-grown man right there on the right. Nice illustration of a giant. That. Again, this isn't really my presentation either. I'm just trying to establish the fact that giantism is real before we continue on, and I show you some really profound stuff. Standing tall in the land of Genghis Khan, 7 foot 5 inches. Robert, this is I know this guy's name. Robert Wadlow Pershing, or Robert Pershing Wadlow. Died in 1941. Probably heart failure. Giantism is common in people who have problems with the pituitary gland. This dude's he's pretty tall, but he's not really a giant. She's tall. The tallest lady in the world. That's what it says on the bottom. It's another Asian. Very big guy. Yeah, man. They're trying to shoot him in the face. That's another big guy. All right. Old illustration. Here's some real big guys. I don't know who they are. They look like Cossacks. Chang, the Chinese giant of, say, 1870. Yeah, he's pretty big. She is too. So this guy's 5 foot. Let's see, 5, 6, 5. He's about 5'4". This guy right here is about 5'4". She is wearing high heels, I believe. Yeah. So she's about 7.5 foot tall. In French, at the bottom, it says "La famille of giants," the family of giants. He's real big, and he's tall. So, with all these real life 7 and 8 foot tall people, Why is it such a stretch of imagination to believe the reports from the 17 and 1800s of all these 7, 8, and 9 foot tall human skeletons that have been found all over North America? There are books and magazines and gazettes full of these discoveries. Full of these discoveries. I think that's Robert Pershing Wadlow again, or Robert Wadlow Pershing. One of them. I know all three of his names. I just don't know what order. This would be before 1941 when he passed. I think I mentioned him in my own Giants book, Giants on Ancient Earth. Oh, same picture. What's up, cowboy? Damn. He's a big one. It's too blurry for me to read. Ain't no way you're going to fit in that carriage, my friend. It's all in French. I can't read it. The Hotel de Ville Omengog. I can't pronounce that. All this is French. It's all French, but the reason it's being shown is because it's showing normal sized humans, all these normal sized people, and then you got, who are these? Who are these, man? Are these Nephilim? Look at the height of some of these people. Back here too. Further back here. Okay, the reason this is interesting and it's been shown in many books on giants is because this is not a lion cub. That's a maned lion. So this would be the reason this is a significant picture. It's showing Gilgamesh. And it's basically showing that he was huge. He could wrestle full-grown lions, which is exactly what the traditions say. So in Sumer, we had the Lugals. They even had to create special laws that protected ordinarily sized people from getting run over in business transactions by the Lugalum. The Lugalum are these guys sitting in the chairs. They're sitting in a chair and they're way taller than the ordinarily sized people. One of the more popular Lugalum was named Lugalbanda. He was an early king of Ur. Again, there's a lot of Sumerian tradition about the Lugals. Lugal means big man. Differences in size. Big differences in size. But this could be iconographic. Definitely not an actual representation of his size. Yeah, this is a popular one too. Look at the size. Look at the size of these Minoans compared to their helpers on the ships. Giant axes of Knossos are famous because no man today can wield these. You can't fight with these axes. There's a Naram Sin. That's the size of Naram Sin compared to enemy combatants. Giant cities of Bashan. I did a video on this. I have the actual book in my library. It's right here. The Giant Cities of Bashan. J.L. Porter was a historian, and he traveled to Syria and he went to the remote mountains, and he was astonished by the architecture, megalithic, huge multi-ton doors where the jamb, lintel, and frames were all one stone piece, but they had movable parts. And unless you can 3D print stone, he doesn't understand how they can make them. But other researchers who read J.L. Porter's discoveries in Giant Cities of Bashan later found the exact same door systems at Tiwanaku in Bolivia and Altiplano. Genesis 6:4, you already know the story about the giants and the Nephilim. The Anakim, and then after the flood, we have the Anakim. These would be the descendants of those who were alive in the vapor canopy period. After a while, the size of giant offspring they were heroes, men of renown, but they were no longer gigantic. They were just slightly taller than the average person. This is mentioning the Emums and the Zamzumums and the Anakim, the Rephaim. There's 5 races of giants in the Old Testament. I can't remember. It's Anakim, Rephaim, Emums, Zamzumums, and the Zuzums. Those are the 5 races of giants. Then there was 2 sub-races called the Avums and the Horims. Really good book right here. Lost Race of the Giants. We'll be looking at some of the material in this book. Mount Blanco Fossil Museum. So this is how they build a dinosaur. So if they can build a dinosaur like this, then you can sure as hell build a human, because that right there is a human femur. That is an anatomically perfect human femur. So they built this reconstruction of what it would look like in a person today. Here's an average size middle-aged man right here. Well, he might be elderly. Look at the size difference. They do the same thing with dinosaurs. They build a whole dinosaur based off one little bone or two. Lost World of the Giants by Jonathan Gray, another really good book. Dead Men's Secrets by Jonathan Gray. A lot of the material we'll be looking at is from his research. In this book that I just showed you, for those of you who want to order Jonathan Gray's material, you're going to be blown away. Large size construction, strange ruins on the seabed. He has a lot of data where he just goes through the archaeological anomalies of the old world and shows that these staircases, these doors, these courtyards, these ascents, none of this, even the size of the sarcophagi and the tombs, they were all for a race of people 8 to 9 and 10 feet tall and had nothing to do with ordinary sized humans today. Very good research this man has put together. In his book, he mentions that an analysis of the biomechanics of these ancient reptiles indicates that their demise would have been occasioned by precisely the same kind of atmospheric phenomenon as associated with the condensation of Earth's vapor canopy. With the loss of the canopy, the greenhouse would disappear. An exaggerated pole to equator temperature differential would develop. He's literally describing what happened in 2239 BC when all the mammoths instantly flash froze. So he says, gigantism in the fossil record. Another of the marvels of the ancient world was the surprisingly large size of its faunal inhabitants. Giant lizards weighing over 40 tons were common. Why is it that these animals flourished at one time and are now absent? Why are there no giants except for aquatic animals like whales today? Since climatic conditions that are thought to have prevailed in ancient times do prevail today in certain areas of the earth, it is unlikely that giantism can be explained in terms of abundant food supply and tropical climate. And he's right. Giantism is caused by 2 factors, and they work in tandem. One of them is the ultraviolet light coming in through the vapor canopy, and the other is ambient radiation from volcanism. I believe I got some of these pictures from Martin Leakey. This book doesn't mean giants published this book. They were actually making books this big for all kinds of reasons. It has nothing to do. It's just interesting to look at. We saw that picture earlier. So there's many books on giants that explain that the reason why so many gigantic people haven't given gigantic offspring is the fact that for about a 400-year period, anybody who was of inordinary size was put on the front lines of different armies. Yeah, monarchies and kings. You know what? Government use these guys in war, and you can only fight on the front line in so many battles before mathematically it becomes probable that you fall, you die. That might be the Cardiff giant right there. That's a fossil. Some big old boys there. So famous painting. Difference between 15 feet and 6 feet. Now, the reason this illustration is particularly interesting is because in the Old Testament, Og of Bashan is described as 13 feet tall. So Goliath is 9 cubits in a span, which is about 9.5 feet tall. Or 11.5 foot tall, something like that. He was 6 cubits in a span, I believe. Sonia. Endingkin von Fräulein. Don't give me the line. These are the gigantic axes at Knossos. The Minoan axes. Mongolian. Okay, there's your Gilgamesh holding the lion. And this is just to scale. This is just to show proportion, that if the lion is a full-bred lion like the tail and the mane suggest, then this is the size that Gilgamesh would have been, who's so famous throughout all these ancient reliefs, and compared to ordinary people. Another famous woodcut or illustration or engraving. This is David and Goliath. Uh-oh, striking a pose. German. Ivan Markov. My name is Ivan Markov. I am a direct descendant of Ivan the Terrible. Yeah, this is a this is an old illustration. Giants were never that big. Chain giant. Is this an ancestor of the human race? Discovery of an ancient giant's footprint in British Columbia raises an interesting question. That'd be a big old dude, man. Oh, I was going to say this doesn't belong here, but then again, it does. We have this little, we have a woman up here compared to the size of this Titanus. Okay. Here's some type of battle. Not sure the meaning. It's just a giant dude, but it could represent something else since we have a dragon pot coming up out of the ground. All right, so this would be out of the Odyssey, the Cyclopes throwing rocks at the ships. We saw a version of that picture. Saw that. Oh, man, that's classy. He's a big old guy. That's a classy picture, too. I'm just showing you the giant pictures to give you some context that we have giant trees today and we've had giant people. Then what I'm going to show you is not it's all within this context. These are the Minoan axes again. There they are again. It's pretty cool. Uh-oh. That might be the giant of Guild Hall or Gog Magog. You know, of England. Damn, she's big. How many of these more I got? Oh, I'm at the very end. Good, I'm at the very end. We saw that one. Look at that. Look at that painting. Coming to get one of those sheep. Here's a book in my library right here, Giants on Record, America's Hidden History, Secrets in the Mounds, and the Smithsonian Files. It is a fantastic book. Let's see. Now, Jeffrey Bailey is asking, is it selective in its enlargement of certain fauna and people? Why not all living things? All living things are affected. All flora, all fauna, people. Listen, trees are made of hard wood. Trees last for centuries anyway. So these giant trees have survived since the last vapor canopy, but no other plants have that longevity. They would decay and become a part of the soil and all that. They're not, yeah. So the vapor canopy of the Dark Ages, none of those plants would have survived. They're gone. Once the vapor canopy was gone, the sun comes up, dries things out, burns them. The whole equatorial zone, especially, overrun with heat. Yeah, no plants are going to survive that. But people aren't that big anymore. They get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're going to see more about giants in this presentation, because the traditions of giants, the fear of giants and gigantic animals is all from the Middle Ages. Where did they get this fear? Where did they get this fear? There was no fear of giants in the Roman Empire. There was no fear of gigantic animals in the Roman Empire. So what happened between the fall of Rome and the fall of Rome, and then 500 and something years later, we emerge into the Middle Ages, and all of a sudden in the Middle Ages, churches have dragons and giants and gargoyles, and Vikings go everywhere on dragon ships, and they're a terror to the ancient world because they're mimicking something. The only thing in between the civilized Roman, Greco-Roman world and the Middle Ages, when we just suddenly started building urban cities, cathedrals, universities, and stone castles, and almost instantly embarked on the Crusades, making war against Islam in the Middle East. All this happened at the same time, same period of history. It's like humans just appeared and just started exploding. Why? What happened? I'm going to tell you what happened. A 400-year period of darkness happened, called the Dark Ages. That's what separates the civilized Roman world that didn't fear giants and didn't fear giant creatures. And then the Middle Ages, when all of a sudden everybody's scared of giant creatures and they're scared of giants. We're going to see that here in this presentation. It wouldn't take but 100 years or so, and all the plants of the world would be back to their normal sizes. And people, giants, would be given birth to people that would get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But what's interesting is all up in the Middle Ages, all the way up to the 1500s, there were still giants here because our explorers came into contact with them. Also, not all the gigantic animals died out either. We have records of gigantic animals all the way up until the 1700s. Oh yeah, you're going to see some awesome stuff in this video. I'm not picking on you, Jeffrey. I'm just saying trees are the only things that would survive. They last for centuries. History of Jack the Giant Killer may have a little history to it. You know, they say Stonehenge. I got books from the 1700s that show pictures of Stonehenge and illustrations and woodcuts and engravings that go back 200 years before that. Stonehenge is old, guys. The legend is that it was built by giants. Here's a 7-foot 6-inch human skeleton in the Mutter Museum. I would not want to come across that dude if he was mad. So here's a map of reported giant discoveries featured in the book that I just showed you, of human skeletons that have all been found at 7 foot high and taller across the United States. Do you see how many gigantic human skeletons have been found all over the United States? And this guy didn't just provide a map. Order the book, and you will see he goes through them all. human skeletons. I've told you guys many times, giants are all over North America. And the Smithsonian went into overdrive to hide all this information. Look at this. This is the Ohio Mound Builder civilization. So many giants have been found here. In the 1800s and 1900s, before World War I, the building out the infrastructure of the United States, we uncovered so many sarcophagi and grave sites that were full of gigantic human skeletons. And most of you have never even heard of this material, never heard of these discoveries, because it is so suppressed. Yeah, his book is fantastic. I'm going to show it one more time for those of you who want this book. I have in my library. I recommend it, by Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman. I recommend this book. It is fantastic on giants. Here's some old pictures from 1580, an illustration from 1580 on the giants. Patagonian giants. Tuscaloosa with De Soto. They say Tuscaloosa was bigger. A wood engraving of a Patagonian and a very tall Fuegian in 1871. This Patagonian giant is smaller than the ones that were seen by Drake and Magellan. In 1828, the Shawnee have traditions of fighting giants. This is a duck decoy that was found in Lovelock Cave. What's Lovelock Cave famous for? Several human skeletons that were gigantic. Evidently, they liked hunting ducks because they made duck decoys just like we do. A 7-foot skeleton at Serpent Mound. This is Peebles, Ohio. And again, the giant trees and the giant humans are not my presentation. They're not my presentation. I'm just establishing a fact here that giantism in flora and fauna is real. 9 feet tall giant found in Indiana. This is a scale model of that 9 foot tall giant right here, shown in a newspaper. If that skeleton was a man, this is what he would look like. It's Goliath. Elongated skull found in Pumapunka in Bolivia. Remember, in many of my Phoenix presentations, I've explained to you guys, don't listen to that ancient aliens narrative BS. The elongated skulls have nothing to do whatsoever with extraterrestrial species coming to Earth and doing it. It has nothing to do with that. The human body is going to take on new proportions. There's going to be a layering and a buildup of epiphyseal cartilage. There's going to be a thickening of the bones. Maybe our marrow will be producing more hormones that, who knows, human growth hormone? I don't know. But the skeletons from the pre-flood world all show evidence of bone thickening and of longevity, as if people were living for about 200 to 300 years. Top 10 giant discoveries in North America and where they were at. West Hickory, Pennsylvania has the tallest human skeleton ever recorded. 18 feet. Lompoc Rancho, California, 12 foot. Beaver Lake, Ozarks, Kansas, 10 foot. Catalina Island, California, 9'2" skeleton. San Diego, California, an 8'4" skeleton. Miamisburg, Ohio, an 8 foot 1.5 inch tall skeleton. Steelville, Missouri, an 8 foot skeleton. Guys, you have to understand, these are only the ones that have been found. There's been thousands and thousands that have been found at 7 foot high, but these are the only ones that have been found. Imagine all the ones that have been decayed, eaten by animals, have not been yet discovered, or too deep to be found. Here's an old giant's mummy, female. Embossed copper plate worn by Tumaqua, 1562. Giant Indians. Again, this is Onovas, Mexico. Another elongated skull. It doesn't mean they're not human. They're 100% human, but it's a human that lived under vapor canopy conditions. This is Sonora, Mexico. Has revealed a series of skeletons. Wow. 25 sets of human remains found close to the Mexican village of Onovas. All right, so we're done with that. We're done with the giants in this file. So again, Jonathan Gray, any book I show you is a book I recommend to read. You want to know about vapor canopy mechanics and techniques and pre-flood world and flora and fauna systems and how they were different. All these things that I talk about in Archaeus, guys, I don't make these things up out of my head. These all come from legitimate researchers, scientific reports. They all come. It's just suppressed. This information is suppressed so you don't know it. But when you read all these books that I'm showing you, you'll find, man, these things have been discovered. They've been documented. They've been put in museums. They've been taken out of museums, put in the basements. New evolutionary uniformitarian exhibits have replaced them, but it doesn't mean they weren't found. There are newspaper articles, Gazette articles. There's oil and gas mining reports, excavations, people who sank infrastructure when they're sinking wells or laying out sewer systems for cities. These things are found all the time. They're just not reported to the general public. The Killing of a Paradise Planet, Lost History of the Pre-Flood World, Jonathan Gray. So he goes through in this book. I'm not going to go through it. You can if you want it, but if you want the book. But he goes through in this book and shows you the climate of the pre-flood world. He shows you the surface of the pre-flood world, what its materials were, how it was different today. He shows you the plants and animals of the pre-flood world, all about the vapor canopy of the pre-flood world and what it did. He says a vapor envelope surrounding the planet not only precluded winds, storms, and rain, but also filtered out life-shortening cosmic rays. So we did a lot more than that, but the pre-flood longevity, the population of humanity, the science and technology that existed in the pre-flood world, the corruption and the violence that overtook the pre-flood societies. Yeah, he goes pretty deep. He talks about from the perspective of someone under the vapor canopy, the stars were magnified. Remember, I've talked about this many, many times in Archaics. I did not make this up. My sources come from old Native American and African traditions of a watery ocean in the sky that magnified the moon and the stars. He's coming from a different perspective. All kinds of scientific reports about about our mesosphere. Under the vapor canopy, it would not be totally dark at night. The moon and the stars were magnified. Therefore, there was plenty of light. As a matter of fact, there would be shadows everywhere because the moon would have been so bright. Because the vapor canopy acts as a magnifier at night. In the daytime, when the sun is in the sky, you can't see it because the mesosphere fogs up and it pulls the moisture out of the air back into the mesosphere. And while the moisture is condensed in the mesosphere, it is a canopy of violet, blue, or darkness, and the sun cannot be seen. This is the vapor canopy. Under this canopy, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, marsupials, humans, plants, trees all grow to huge sizes. Atmosphere increases. The oxygen content is increased by 30 to 40%. Open wounds heal in seconds. Yeah, it's a whole different world. It's an entirely different experience. The effect of a canopy on the atmosphere. Canopy would promote such atmospheric pressure. He's talking about the increase in atmospheric pressure and what it does for the human body or any biological body. Atmospheric pressure promoted rapid healing. Yeah, I didn't even read Jonathan Gray until long after I'd already produced all my Phoenix research based off of, pulling my material from other sources. So I'm really impressed with Jonathan Gray. Plants grew to 2 to 3. Oh, okay, let's see. Plants. Plant-like was gigantic. Mosses grew 2 to 3 feet in height. Today, they're just an inch. Horsetail reeds today usually grow 5 or 6 feet in height. Back, under a vapor canopy, they're 50 feet tall. Wow. Listen. Fossil trees. Fossil trees have been documented by some to be almost 1,000 feet high. It's crazy. Just imagine an alligator as big as a house. Because that's what we have in the fossil record. And the fossils aren't old. So I'm not going to go through all this material. He gives some examples of 18-inch dragonflies with 18-inch wings. Cockroaches a foot long. How would you ladies like a cockroach in your kitchen that was a foot long? It's crazy. Man. 6 to 10 foot wide frogs with 20-inch heads. Jaws more powerful than those of a modern ox. Yeah. You can be 30 feet away and that frog hit you with a tongue, pull you into his mouth. There ain't nothing you can do about it. A frog. Can you imagine? Can you imagine exiting the sim and going to talk to your friends and family on the outside of the sim? Say, damn, man, I got to go back into the Nemesis simulation, man. I didn't even graduate. What happened to you, fool? Oh, man, I got ate by a frog, a big old frog. It's like, man, it would be absolutely embarrassing. I would have to go back in. I said, no, man. Locust with a 7-inch wingspan. Scorpions 9 feet long. A scorpion 9 feet long. Do you know how hard it is to kill a 3-inch long scorpion? Yeah, I live in Texas. We have scorpions. A 3-inch long scorpion takes a lot to kill it if you're not killing it with a weapon. If you think you can just step on, I'm 220 pounds. I've stepped on scorpions and they don't die. Their armor is amazing. I've taken a scorpion and put him in a PVC bucket and forgot about him. And about 3 months later, I came and I dumped that bucket out and I found the scorpion dead, upside down. And I left him there in a hot baking flagstone, on a flagstone baking in the heat. I just left him there. That scorpion got up and walked away about an hour later. Yeah. You can't kill those things unless you got to really make an effort. Can you imagine a scorpion 6 feet long? They would take over the world. You have to have an assault rifle to hurt that thing. Locust with a 7-inch wing. Man, a scorpion 9 foot long. Snails almost a foot across. Can you imagine a lobster bigger than a man? That would suck. We're not talking about things in the ancient world. We're talking about the pre-flood world, but we're also talking about a lot of things people feared at the beginning of the Middle Ages. Why did they fear these things? What the hell happened right before the Middle Ages that all of a sudden people fear giants and giant creatures? Let's see. Perseus did it in 82. Graybeard, man, stop it. That was such a classic movie. But he had a magic sword too, man. Look at the size of this kangaroo. Kangaroo skeletons have been found this size. Look at this. They're not growing to that size today, and yet it's still an anatomically correct kangaroo. Therefore, what happened? What changed? Boars as large as a hippopotamus. Baboons 13 feet. Do you know how violent a baboon can be? And a modern day baboon isn't that big. Can you imagine a 13-foot tall baboon? You may as well call it King Kong. Third space. Thank you, bro. Rhinos, about 17 feet high and nearly 30 feet long. That is a land shark. It's incredible. Incredible. So my publisher recently sent me this book he found in his archives And he said, man, after going through this book, I had to send it to you. He said, it's amazing. He recently sent me the Thor Heyerdahl book and found another book too of the source book project that I don't have called Strange Artifacts. I'm so glad that he found that. But he's sending that to me this week. But this book he sent to me about like 2 months ago, Serpents of the Sky, Dragons of the Earth. And it is very compelling material in this book. Matter of fact, let's go look at it. Let's look at table of contents. This is a rare book. I don't even think you can find it anymore. I may have to PDF this so you guys can have it. I don't believe you can order it on Amazon no more. The Irish Dragon Hunt. Return to the bogs. And he's mentioning all these monsters and all in the Middle Ages, all these monsters and creatures that filled the bogs of Ireland and England. All these creatures. You've heard of Loch Ness, the Loch Ness Monster? Yeah. In the Middle Ages, these creatures were everywhere. They were being fought and they were being caught and hunted. What happened? How did they get there? Why weren't they there during the Greco-Roman period? What happened between the Greco-Roman period and the beginning of the Middle Ages that suddenly had giant creatures and giant monsters everywhere? Dragons in Theory and Practice, the disc culture, that's pretty interesting there. I'm going to have to go back to that because the disc culture seems to go across Ireland all the way to China. What is a dragon? The serpent people. This is just really good research in this book. I was impressed. Let's see. This is a serpent mound in Peebles, Ohio. Interesting. Peebles, Ohio. I just showed it to you earlier. Is where a giant skeleton was found. This looks like some type of serpent. Here's something interesting. So these I forgot what is it called, epigraphic. These epigraphic specialists like Barry Fell, they say that this is a inscription or this is a etching or carving of a dragon in a body of water. Now, to me, that's kind of highly imaginative. How do you know? But this is the traditions that is associated to this etching, this carving of a 3-humped dragon in the Mound of Noth in County Meath. So the object on the left seems to be a spear symbolically penetrating its neck. Now, to me, I can dismiss this as highly imaginative until I look at what people are photographing in Loch Ness. The traditions attached to this engraving is that it's a sea monster in one of the lakes. Then we get this picture then we get a photograph from 1951 of the 3 humps out of the lake. So is it imagination? I thought it was pretty interesting. So in the Middle Ages, we have churches. You would think that the churches would be filled with the 12 disciples. The churches would be filled with all kinds of things about Jesus and the Annunciation and Mother Mary. You would think the churches of the early Middle Ages would be full of all kinds of things about the gospel story and the narrative and the apostles and Apostle Paul and Peter and all those works, but they're not. They're not. Those come secondary. The early middle-aged churches are full of gargoyles, snakes, serpents, weird monsters, creatures. Some say they may be demons. But in the representations of Jesus, get this, guys. I've already done a presentation showing this. I even gave Martin Leakey, when he was in Texas, I gave him a book that was in my library called Jesus and the Mushroom. And it shows the middle-aged churches. A whole bunch of the churches associated Jesus to giant mushrooms. What? What are we missing between the collapse of the Western civilization when the Greco-Roman civilization, the Roman Empire collapsed, the Dark Ages began in the great Justinian Darkness period? What are we missing from that period to all of a sudden the middle-aged in the Middle Ages, churches are built, but they're put with all these monsters and St. George slaying the dragon and knights fighting dragons and giant serpents and stuff. What are we missing? Because the only thing that fills that area in the historical record is the Dark Ages. Here's a holy angel holding a cross and a staff and standing on the dragon. The dragon's tail in church art and Scandinavian pictographs. Again, what are dragons doing depicted? What are dinosaur-looking creatures doing depicted on European churches in the Middle Ages? What is going on? Here's an interesting map. It's from the same book. So, coming into the Middle Ages, we have all these traditions of the Linton worm, the worm of Spindlestone, the Lambton worm, the Pollard worm. Worm is monster or dragon. Sockburn worm, the serpent of Handale, the worm of Sexhow, dragon of Lashi or Laki, the Henham dragon, the dragon of Beers, the Allard dragon, the worm of Shervage Wood, Bromfield dragon, Wyvern of Sinwich, serpent of Denby. Distribution of English and Welsh dragons whose locale is supported by folklore or documentation. Why are all these dragons and all? These aren't on churches. These are in lakes and forests all over England. What the hell happened? How did all these creatures suddenly appear? Wait a minute. Might be going the wrong way. Oh, that's it. So, this is Clifton and its lakes. The dotted lines indicate roads. The numbers show the approximate position of the witnesses when they saw dragons as listed below. Let's see Georgia Carberry and Friends, Tommy Joyce, Unnamed Witness, Tommy Conley of Derrylay. So all these are people's names who actually saw these things. So let's look at this map. Interesting. So this is just a small area packed full of lakes. Look at all these lakes. So the book is very good. The book is very good. Well, we're done with that file. For those of you interested, maybe you can find a PDF online. Maybe I'll have to make one. So again, despite selling out to the ancient aliens agenda, David Hatcher Childress is still one of my favorite historical authors because he shows some real stuff. I have the entire series, Lost Cities. They are fantastic. They are fantastic. He shows in here. He shows an old map. I didn't have this map, but he shows another old map of California being a separate island, and this would have been that Dark Age period. This would have been that period that we're discussing. So we'll get to maps here in a minute. Now, this is a Roman sword that was found, what's claimed to be a Roman sword that was found in Arizona. What does that look like to you? And do you think it's a stretch of imagination to claim that that's a Brontosaurus? If you think it's impossible that that's a Brontosaurus on a sword that's only like 15 centuries old, then you're going to be real surprised by some of these other pictures you see. Here it is again. These are the actual swords that were found. These are all manufactured like during the Dark Age period. This is a sword with that creature on it. Tucson, Arizona. Here are North American and Turkish petroglyphs. These aren't ancient, guys. They wouldn't have survived all that weathering. These aren't ancient at all. These are probably within the last 2,000 years, 15 centuries, or 1,000 years. That's a wingless bird at the top. A wingless bird is, a reptile, an avian, which is nothing but a feathered reptile. But there's a wingless bird, and that's a person. Here's one right here. Big old giant bird at Catalhoyuk took this guy's head off. Map of North America, 1566, Venice. Here's a map of North America, 1566. What's interesting here, no Great Lakes. There are no Great Lakes. They've been all in here. There's Granada, Iguar, Comos, Chucha, Vacas. They've been all in here mapping. They got the mountains mapped. Chucha, which would have been Chicago area. Listen, nothing. There's no Great Lakes. There's a lot of older maps from the 1500s and 1400s that do not show Great Lakes. Chapter 9 of this book, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, pterodactyls, tunnels, and the 7 cities of Cibola. Yeah, he goes through this chapter and shows so many examples of what could only be a species of pterodactyls still living over the deserts of New Mexico and Texas and Arizona, all the way up into the 1800s in the Old West period. It is overwhelming amount of historical accounts in this book. This is Akamaro. We'll see some more. Akamaro, Mexico. These aren't even that old. These aren't that old, guys. This is Akamaro, Mexico. Here are humans domesticating what looks like to be, we call them dinosaurs, but they're just vapor canopy reptiles. Remember, just like the changes in the human skull and bone density and all that, and the size of people, also reptiles change too. There could be like the Komodo dragon, giant saltwater crocodiles. There could be reptiles today that take on new dimensions and new genetic changes under different atmospheric pressure, ultraviolet light, and increased oxygen content. It's not just people and plants that change. Amphibians and reptiles would take on changes as well. Akamaro, Mexico. These relics have actually been found. Anatomically correct stegosaurs, triceratops, allosaurus, brontosaurus, and many others I don't even know. Anatomically correct, guys. As if they lived and they cohabited with them. I mean, many of these there's 35,000 of these figurines, and many of these figurines show that they are riding these creatures. They are completely domesticated. If any of you have not ordered the 6 books of the Lost City series, you're missing out. It is an epic corpus of data about all over the world. It's great stuff. Much kudos to David Hatcher Childress, even though you suck joining Ancient Aliens. I told you we're going to be looking at a lot. So here's the second book. I'm not going to go through any more. Here's the second book by David Hatcher Childress, Lost Cities and Ancient Mysteries of South America. It is equally good. It is such a good book. Such a good book. Right here he shows a picture of Dr. Cabrera of the Museum of Ica. The Ica stones are amazing because in Peru, it shows that the Inca, or the Chumash, one of those Native American tribes down there in South America, provides tens of thousands of stones with paintings and engravings of what could be nothing but prehistoric creatures. And these stones aren't even 12, 13 centuries old. How is that possible? This is a South American Indian totem pole. It's petrified wood. This is a petrified wood totem pole. Many of these stones behind it are of what we call dinosaurs. Also, I'm going to show close-ups here in a while. In the Ica stones, in this collection called the Ica stones of South America, here's a guy looking through a magnifying glass at a specimen. Look, here's your ancient archaeologist. He's looking through a magnifying glass at a specimen. Here's some of the Ica stones. A lot of people say that they're this whole shelf here are Ica stone engravings of kangaroos in South America. How did that happen? Look at these kangaroos. That's a kangaroo right there. So is that. So is this. Well, that's a wombat. Kangaroos in South America. Here is a black and white illustration of a South American relief on an Ica stone. Look at this. The bottom one looks like a dinosaur. But when you turn it over, the top one looks like a dinosaur too. Anatomically correct Stegosaurus. What's going on? What are we not being told? What are we not being told? Here's another Ica stone. Interesting thing. So in chapter 9 of this book, Across Patagonia, Giants in the Earth, he goes through and explains the Patagonian giants and how Magellan, the explorer, going around the Cape of, I forgot what it was, the Magellan Strait, South America, going around, came across the Patagonian giants, and they were enormous. They were huge. Later, Drake, man, am I about to die? Hold on. Wow, I gotta plug this up. Hold on. Gotta plug this up. I didn't know I was low. Okay. Later, Drake saw the same thing, and so did I think it was Lord Byron. They all talked about the Patagonian giants. Let's see, Land of Fire. Let's see. While Magellan's fleet laid at anchor in the natural bay, a native of extremely large proportions appeared on the beach. This man, wrote Pigafetta, a companion of Magellan, was so tall that our heads scarcely came up to his waist, and his voice was like that of a bull. Other natives emerged, and according to a historian in Spain, the smallest of them was taller and bulkier than any Spaniard. So was born the story of the Patagonian giants, appearing to vindicate those historians who had insisted that such a race must exist. Sir Francis Drake anchored in the same harbor in 1578, also reporting men of great stature, who he described as being well over 7 feet tall. Anthony Nevet, who took part in an expedition to the Straits of Magellan in 1592, wrote of having seen Patagonians from 10 to 12 feet in height, and of having measured several bodies of the same size at Port Desire. Several skeletons 10 and 11 feet long were discovered in 1615 by 2 crewmen from the Dutch schooner Wilhelmshaven. So this is when Commodore Byron visited the Magellan Strait in 1764. That's a Phoenix year on the 138-year timeline. He reported sighting some natives on horseback who waved at his party. Byron later wrote on his log that the chief of these natives was of gigantic stature and seemed to realize the tales of monsters in human shape. He had the skin of some wild beast thrown over his shoulder. Wow. In 1833, soldiers digging in a pit for a powder magazine at Lompoc Rancho, California, hacked their way through a layer of cemented gravel and came up with a skeleton of a man about 12 feet tall. The skeleton was surrounded by carved shells, huge stone axes, and blocks of porphyry covered with unintelligible symbols. The giant was also noteworthy. Is still another respect. He had a double row of teeth, both upper and lower. Wow. That's just like the double row of teeth in the son of Goliath, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 fingers on each foot. 6 toes on each foot. Here's an artist rendition of Native American traditions of the pterodactyl. So David Hatcher Childers has some interesting things to add to this discussion. This is I believe this is Harold T. Wilkins. You can't really see it that good. I held this picture up last night. Secret Cities of Old South America, Harold T. Wilkins. There it is. He wrote a lot about the Phoenix phenomena. Whew, excuse me. Coffee's not working. Here's some I guess it would be pictographs that have been found. Sea serpent seen from an English ship in 1850 or about 1850. Artist rendition. An unknown marine monster washes up on the California beach. This looks like the 1960s. We've had a few of those. Mexican temple serpent modeled from a monster like living. And what's really interesting is that it was during the Dark Ages that there was a new style of pyramid entered the Americas. And it was these pyramids that had all kinds of ornate designs of creatures and all that stuff. Prior to that, pyramids were just blocks. Imagine that. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. So there's a chapter in here called Monstrous Beasts of the Unexplored Swamps and Wilds. And he provides account after account after account after account of all kinds of things that were of like prehistoric provenance existing in the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s in the wilds of South America and Central America. It's crazy. Sea serpent, ancient ceramic of Peru. That's definitely an elephant or a mammoth on the bottom. That is a pipe, smoking pipe. In the Americas, this is believed to be the effigy, of some type of prehistoric creature. Man, I keep yawning. I need to stop that. Oh, I got some bangers to show you guys. It's gonna blow your mind. So here's a really good book in my library, Darwin's Mistake, Antediluvian Discoveries Prove Dinosaurs and Humans Coexisted. Here is an ancient wall painting. What in the hell? How in the hell? This is Pompeii, Italy. A painting on a wall that shows a Plesiosaurus. The Loch Ness monster type creature. Oh, and you know what? I know what's wrong. I need more coffee. Pompeii, Italy has a plesiosaur painted on the wall. You ain't heard about that on National Geographic. Here are Akamaro artifacts. Those look like dinosaur type creatures to me. That is a human riding a stegosaurus. This is an actual Mexican artifact. You can't make this shit up. Here's Akamaro, Mexico. He's talking about those. He's also talking about this Egyptian steel, the Polar. I believe this is the Palermo steel. Oh, this is the Narmer palette. Yeah, looks like some prehistoric creatures. Here's some horned creatures at the top. They're probably mammals. They might be bulls or whatever. I don't know. But we got these dragon-like creatures. Lima, Peru, and a part of the Ica and the Nazca area. The Ica collection. Again, we have dinosaurs here fighting each other. Dinosaur-like creatures here. We have engravings here. Anasazi. This is Anasazi in North America. What did they see? This is the Narmer. This is Naram Sin. Everybody else on here is normal human size. He's huge. King of the mountain. So in Darwin's Mistake, we have chapters like dinosaurs and men walk together. And he provides a lot of examples showing that in the same strata, human skeletons, human artifacts, human footprints have all been found in the same strata is what paleontologists are calling dinosaurs. Dinosaurs on the surface of the earth. He has a chapter in here explaining that we've got everything wrong because the dinosaurs that we're all finding are right here on the surface. They're right here on the surface. Many human skeletons are found deeper than dinosaurs. Time-eating monsters. It's a good name for a time-eating monsters is a great name for a chapter that deals in all the anomalies, showing that all the relative dating methods for which our scientists are using to tell us what time dinosaurs lived are completely in error, because if they were true, it would show that humans are older than dinosaurs. Go figure that one out. Rapid hardening of sedimentary rock. He goes into the geology and shows how all these layers were made and very rapidly. He talks about the ice-free South Pole very recently, and where all that moisture had to have gone, a vapor canopy. You guys think I make all this stuff up. So not all of you, but some of you guys think I make all this stuff up. It's here, man. Remember, I got a vapor canopy video from like 3 years ago that cites 4 different scientific books that all talk about vapor canopy. I didn't make any of this up. I'm just putting it all together chronologically. Yeah, many of these vapor canopy reptiles, they were all herbivores. A whole bunch of them were herbivores. The carnivores were kind of small, like velociraptors. There's a whole lot of controversy about Tyrannosaurus Rex being absolutely falsified, and no such fossils have ever been found. They've been pieced together. But this is the sudden disappearance of the mammoth. Yeah. His book is really good. This is a book you can get on Amazon too. This is the book I would highly recommend if you're interested in all the archaics type stuff. Great book right here. I bought this in the Creation Museum of Glen Rose, Texas when I was recently there. Great book. Man. Oh, there's Nessie. There she is. Look at the sea serpents. Look at that. This is middle age art right here. Almost dark age art right here. Yeah, man. They're scared of these giant creatures. Sea serpent, Cape Ann, 1639. This is the year 1639. Artwork from Australia. That is a plesiosaur. That's a plesiosaur right there. Artwork from Australia. Going back to the Middle Age churches, we have these dragons again. There's a dragon. There's a dragon. So in 1971, a landslide in the Geological region of southern Italy brought to light hundreds of ancient artifacts of pre-Greek civilization. A lawyer named Mario Tolone Azzariti asserts that he found some dinosaurian representations among them. Here they are. Stegosaurus. Yeah. This is pottery. Now, they don't know that's pre-Greek, because that's what archaeologists always do. They assign, just because something is buried doesn't mean it's old. That's how they misdated Göbekli Tepe. There's a little dragon about to get his head cut off. He's talking about how dinosaur fossils are put together with a single bone, sometimes 2 or 3 bones. Here's more church art. What is all this doing on churches? Oh man, this is a church in Florence, Italy. Why you got these dinosaur-looking creatures on your church? Here's St. George. One of the greatest church motifs of the Middle Ages is St. George and the Dragon. Beautiful art. That's a dragon. They even put the detail of bones. Look at all the bones down here. The dragon's been eating cattle. Those are horned skulls. If everything you represent is lifelike, such as here are the former victims, bovine of the dragon, then we're not talking about some type of cosmological motif here. We're not talking about, they're actually representing art on medieval churches of knights killing dragon-like creatures. European medieval decorations. Why was there a fascination in the medieval times with these creatures? Here's a mosaic. Dinosaur-like creature in a mosaic. Here's more artwork from Europe. I don't know what kind of creatures those are. Artwork from Africa. Oh, look at that little cute. Remember that movie Baby in the 80s? Mokil Mambo or something. The Africans called a Brontosaurus Mokil Mambo or something, but the Americans named the Brontosaurus Baby. I know some of y'all remember that movie. All right, here's a boomerang and an Egyptian apotropaic wand. Man, it's a boomerang. Be quiet. All right, so we do have one strange creature on here. It's this one. But that same creature is also found a lot on the Ishtar Gate and in the Near East. Oh, there's the Ishtar Gate right there. What is that? That animal doesn't exist anymore. But here it is again. We keep seeing them. Uruk seal. See, we saw this one earlier on the Narmer palette. Here it is again. Here's a amphora. Here's Cambodia. I know some of you have seen this before. So in the controversy is this. In Angkor Wat, the Khmer civilization has shown there's many effigies and carvings and ornate artwork, and they depict all kinds of lizards and deer and parrots and monkeys and water buffalo, and everything is anatomically correct. And then they come across this and they find, if all the animals and all the people on your artwork on an ancient city lost in a jungle are anatomically correct, why are we to assume that that's not an anatomically correct stegosaurus, a vapor canopy lizard, a herbivore, eats plants? Why are we not? These are stegosaurus. That is a stegosaurus. The only reason this is mysterious to us is because our uniformitarian education has brainwashed us into believing a 65 million year old hoax. That's it. Went the wrong way. These are from Asia, China specifically. Look at this. Here's what's really intriguing. Look at this creature here being pursued by a ship. The ship looks like it's got horns on it right here. That's a dragon ship. Remember what I told you. The first thing that we really have happening in the Atlantic world, coming right out of the Dark Ages, is the appearance of Viking ships, dragon ships, landing on all the coasts of Ireland, of England, all over Denmark, Sweden, northern France. They became the Normans of Normandy, Viking ships, and then all of a sudden, castles are being built made out of stone. Moats are being put all around the castles. Then almost instantly, urban cities are appearing around the castles. Humans are multiplying fast. And the very first churches all have monsters on them, and Jesus as the mushroom lord and the mushroom god, or god of the mushroom. And it's just so bizarre. And then the first universities appear. All of this is almost in the same 100-year window, coming out of the Dark Ages, beginning the Middle Ages. And then the Crusades start, massive wars against Islam in the Middle East. It's like time was at a standstill for 400 years, and it's called the Dark Ages. Here's another one. Here's more of the Akamaro. Oh, these are the Ica stones. No, these are Akamaro. I'm sorry. These are Akamaro artifacts. Akamaro, Mexico. 33,000 ceramic figurines were found. Look at this. They were even researched by Charles Hapgood, who said they were legitimate. Maps of the ancient sea kings. He was a college professor. Look at this. It's beautiful. That's South America. South America. Tell me those aren't dinosaurs. South American Ica art. There's a stegosaurus on that top stone. Yep, it's all Ica art. You can't get more. What is that right there but a baby stegosaurus? I bet they were lovable. I bet they were cute. They were domesticated. Here's the Ica stones. Ica art. Oh, that's Hongsheng jade right there. This is the Ica stone right here, Brontosaurus. And a human. Here's the Viking ships. Here's the Viking ships. So if there was giant things in the water and giant things on the land, I think if I'm going to go around in a ship anywhere, I think I'm going to make my ship look like a dragon. That's what I'm going to do. Because that's exactly what the Vikings did. So there's no truer statement that art mimics nature. This is exactly what we're seeing here. Those ships were a work of art, and they were mimicking the things that they knew that were in the world that they feared. Plesiosaur have been spotted and seen all over the world since the Dark Ages. Everywhere. There's all kinds of ship reports of seeing creatures that are like the Loch Ness Monster everywhere. St. George and the Dragon. Here it is. I'm not making this up. It's a medieval motif. It's one of the most popular medieval motifs. St. George and the Dragon, one of the most common dragon motifs through medieval Europe. Why? Why? He's the hero, and the dragon was the problem. Once humans multiplied, vapor canopy is gone. Now all these creatures have died off, and just a few stragglers in bogs and swamps, like the Grendels, Beowulf story and all that. You know what? Now everything's kind of faded away. Now the knight became the hero. The dragon was the enemy. But now that the threat is over with, the church took it upon themselves to basically turn the threat into a spiritual one now, as opposed to a physical one. Now it was a war for the souls of men, as opposed to a war against all these giant creatures, for their children. This is a actual account of a dragon. What year is this? This is a 1572, month of May. There's a depiction of what was fought. It's not the only one. Here's one right here. The Dragon of Carthage. What's beautiful about this is in the heart of the Dark Ages, this account. This is during the Dark Ages. St. John of Damascus. An Eastern monk who wrote in the 8th century gives a sober account of dragons, insisting that they are mere reptiles and did not have magical powers. He quotes the Roman historian Dio, that's to be Cassius Dio, who wrote concerning the Roman Empire in the 2nd century. Regulus, a Roman consul, fought against Carthage when a dragon suddenly crept up and settled behind the wall of the Roman Empire, of the Roman army. The Romans killed it, skinned it, and sent the hide to the Roman Senate. So we have a long tradition of these creatures existing. So with the return of the vapor canopy in the Dark Ages, they became prolific. They came out, mass multiplied, and humans were depopulated. Humans were food. Giant birds were plucking people off the ground. So it was terrible time to be alive. Chinese dragon. A dragon depiction outside the Church of St. Louis of the French, built in Rome during the 1500s. Look at that. A damn dragon on a church. So this is a really good book. You can get it from Glen Rose, Texas. I'm pretty sure that the Creation Museum of Glen Rose, Texas has a website. All right. Oh, we're moving right along, but we are far from done. Okay, so Texas tracks and artifacts. Do Texas fossils indicate coexistence of men and dinosaurs? It's another really good book. There is another archaeological illustration of the Brontosaurus on the sword. Akamaro, Mexico figurine. This is the Ica burial stone in Peru. Look at that. Triceratops right there taking care of business. A Mexican picture circa 1200 AD right here. That's a creature. That's on the baby Brontosaurus. We've seen that already. And we've seen this one. Here are like petriglyphs and what researchers are claiming that they look like. Brontosaurus, whatever this dinosaur is. Apatosaurus, Ankylosaurus. These are just giant reptiles and giant amphibians. They're calling them dinosaurs. That's all it is. Jonathan Gray, another book, Surprise Witness, Global Events During the Flood. You can get the whole Jonathan. I ordered all the books. I went to the website and I ordered every single book he had all at one time. It's a really good collection to keep you busy for a while. Totally change your whole idea of what happened in the ancient world. Man and dinosaur. The term dinosaur was not invented until 1841. The ancients called them dragons and monsters. The Bible called them behemoths and leviathans. He shows evidence that these creatures were not vicious. It's crazy. Brontosaurus was probably friendly. You could pet it like a dog. And you can imagine that a small population of people could go out and hunt. They could isolate one Brontosaurus from the herd, kill it, and it would feed them for like 6 months. The whole damn village would eat off that Brontosaurus for 6 months. So I'm not going to go through all these, but he provides a massive list of human skeletons and artifacts that have all been found side by side with dinosaur remains, showing that the entire evolutionary uniformitarian model is total bullshit. He does a really good job. Men in embarrassing places, in all the wrong places. That's what he's talking about. He says humans cannot possibly have been found where they have been found if the uniformitarian model of each layer being hundreds of thousands and millions of years old is true, because many human skeletons have been found deeper than the dinosaur strata. We've been sold a hog, guys, a vapor canopy hog. A human tooth found with dinosaurs in 1987. These books are great. I recommend you reading them. So this story is fantastic. So in August 12th, 1989, Dr. Don Patton, I have a couple of his books, spoke at a conference in Dayton, Tennessee. He presented compelling evidence with pictures that both human and dinosaur tracks were present at what is known as Taylor Trail. I have been right outside of Taylor Trail camping in Glen Rose, Texas just a month ago. So 2 well-known evolutionists were present, and at least one was conspicuously disturbed by this presentation. Both men flew to Dallas the next morning and went immediately to the Paluxy River. It is reliably reported that they were in the river that afternoon with an iron bar. 3 days before they were in the river, a series of photographed footprints was observed looking normal. 3 days after they were in the river, it was observed and photographed in a state of destruction. This is exactly what the uniformitarian front does. They pay money for fossils so they can destroy them. They buy up land that's fossil rich so nobody can dig any further. They work with the government to stop any type of oil drilling or well drill, anything. Listen, guys, the intrigues and the conspiracy runs deep. The Smithsonian institution has already been sued for taking whole derelict ships that were going to be scrapped anyway, and filling them with all kinds of artifacts from the Ohio, Mississippi basin that were found of giant skeletons and all kinds of artifacts that should not exist according to the evolutionary model. And they packed these ships and sank them in the Atlantic. Yeah. This right here is exactly what you get from the scientists. This is what you get. They went out there and destroyed that, but I already saw the casts. They made plaster casts, and they're in the museum in Glen Rose, Texas. But this is what they did. Evolutionists, uniformitarians went out there and destroyed the evidence, just like the Smithsonian destroys the evidence all the time. It's crazy. It's criminal. It's crazy and it's criminal, but they're doing it. I think that was it for this book. Yeah. Yeah, I love Jonathan Gray. You can tell it like it is. For those of you interested, this is part of the Jonathan Gray collection. All right. Screen better not be frozen. So in Bill Cooper's After the Flood, the early post-flood history of Europe, traced back to Noah, we have some pretty compelling stuff here because he has a whole chapter 10. Chapter 10 is dinosaurs from Anglo-Saxon and other records. And man, it is some crazy stuff in here. And a lot of it is dated from the early medieval period all the way up to the late 1600s. Eyewitness accounts, giant reptiles. It's amazing. He has account after account after account after account of humans doing battle with giant reptiles in England in the Anglo-Saxon times. That's a good book. This is an illustration of the 1977 discovery of a Japanese fishing trawler. This was drawn by Mikio Hiko Yano in 1977 because the Japanese trawler off the coast of New Zealand found a decayed, dead plesiosaur. It's right here. Same thing, very similar to the Loch Ness Monster. He showed that in his book. After the Flood's a great book too for other reasons, historical reasons. So now I'm going to blow your mind with something because this blew my mind when I saw it. I saw it about, I think Martin Leakey drew my attention to it like a year and a half ago. My mind was on other stuff, so I didn't really pay attention. So I pulled up the old pictures out of Martin's file and I looked at them again. So I did some Googling and I like, wow, this is amazing. So I got to show it to you. All props to Martin for bringing this to my attention. But this is, oh, that's not it. This is the file. Okay, this is a famous painting. All right. This is a famous painting. This is a battle. And if you were to just stand there and look at this battle, because it's a huge painting, but if you were to sit there and look at this image and just look at it, you see all these people fighting, you would totally miss, unless someone drew your attention to the other side of the river. On the other side of the river, look at these creatures. Look how big these long necks. And they're using them to get over the river like military convoy. And some of them are already coming out the river on this side. And this is blurry. I get it. So it's not evidence. But that's why I have multiple images. This has been studied by many people. This is the area where the two red arrows are in this famous painting. It's blurry here, but it's blown up here. Now, these look like perfectly anatomical brontosauruses right here. Look at that. You tell me that doesn't look like brontosauruses. Now, some of you are going to want to say that, oh no, those are just camels. That's how they drew camels, because they didn't really know what camels look like. We have an argument against that, because believe me, I'm going to be thorough. I'm going to be thorough. So before we get to it though, a major science magazine critiqued this painting because so many people were asking, hey, are those brontosauruses in there? So this magazine, instead of just reporting the facts, this is what you get, dripping with condensation. They're just acting like they know everything and everybody else is stupid. Here it is. This is what the writer of the magazine actually said. Every now and then, people on the internet, bless them, believe they have found evidence for time travel in an old painting. It happens surprisingly often, and always with a simple explanation that doesn't necessitate time travel being real, and time travelers themselves being absolute posers who insist on sitting for portraits in their old-timey holiday destination. Does that sound like a professional to you? So people were just asking, hey, are these brontosauruses? And they get all this sarcasm. Oh, that's not all this sarcasm. They get more than that. So here's the caption at the bottom. If you look closely, that's Barney Rubble. So the response to the public is total sarcasm. Barney Rubble is a part of the Flintstones. So instead of just saying, no, those aren't brontosauruses, those are probably camels. You could have said that. But instead, they look like brontosauruses to me. And I'm going to stick with brontosaurus when I show you what I'm about to show you. Here it is right here without the sarcasm. Some people think this old painting proves dinosaurs walked around with humans. Yes, like the Flintstones. You're being gaslit. If they were truly professional and they were truly right that they could easily dismiss this, they wouldn't need the gaslighting. They wouldn't need to say these stupid, disparaging remarks. This is an illustration of a camel from the exact same time period. But even more so, this is a painting by the same guy. The same guy who painted those brontosauruses painted this camel right here. So we can pretty much say that he knows exactly what a camel looks like. Yeah, I was offended by that magazine article, so I did my job. I did my due diligence, and I researched this guy, and I found out who he was. So here's a painting from 1613. Jan Bruegel, the elder Flemish, is the one who painted those brontosauruses. He also painted this Noah's Ark scene with the camel right here. Same guy. Yeah, I read that. This is a medieval version of a camel as well. Europeans know exactly what camels look like, guys. You have to understand, when the Normans instigated the Crusades, from 1100 AD to 1255 AD, we had like 150 years of nothing but reports of Europeans coming back explaining everything they saw. They know exactly what a camel looks like. So you're being gaslit bad by these morons of these magazines when they're trying to tell you that these are camels. They are not camels. If brontosauruses can be engraved in metal swords, then humans could have been riding on their backs as well. We got to throw out our miseducation. We got to throw out all that BS we have been brainwashed to believe is true, because it's not true. The entire dinosaur narrative is a fiction. It's total BS. It's total BS. 1977, Japanese trawler pulled up this monster. This is a plesiosaur. I think that's how you pronounce it. 32 foot long creature weighing 4,000 pounds. It was hauled up from 900 feet down off the coast of New Zealand by a Japanese fishing trawler. It was dead, rotting, and it smelled terrible, and it was thrown back out to sea after pictures and photographs were taken. This is the creature that is found. This is the Plesiosaur. It is found all over the world in seawater and in salt and in freshwater lochs, lakes, bogs, fins in England, in the British Isles. This is the creature that is described over and over and over and over. The reason it might be salt water and fresh water is because it may breathe oxygen. It may have to come to the surface. In 1977, this creature was found. The Japanese were so impressed with the find, they put the find on an official Japanese stamp. Now, Western scientists will gaslight the F out of you and tell you that, no, man, it was a shark, it was incomplete, it was a carcass. That's not what the Japanese trawler. They drew pictures of it, they took pictures of it. That's not what they said. Western scientists will gaslight you and say it was just the decomposed remains of a shark and all, acting like the Japanese aren't intelligent enough to know that they found what is supposed to be a prehistoric creature. Just like the coelacanth. I didn't get pictures of the coelacanth, but many of you know the story. It's supposed to have been extinct 40 million years ago. And yet, anatomically perfect coelacanth now, 5 or 6 specimens have been found since the 1950s. You can't make this shit up. It's an index fossil, meaning they use the coelacanth to date other fossils that are found all over the world. Well, now you got to throw that whole thing out the window because living coelacanths are here. So it's not an index fossil at all. At all. There's more pictures of it. Different perspectives. So here's another David Hatcher Childress book. No, I'm sorry. This is a Charles Hapgood, Professor Charles Hapgood, who wrote Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. He wrote Mystery in Akamaro, but it was David Hatcher Childress who wrote the intro. This is about the 33,000 Mexican stones at Akamaro that have been found to show humans domesticated dinosaur-looking creatures. And they are anatomically correct according to the creatures that we've been told are dinosaurs. They're just vapor canopy lizards. Here is Akamaro, Mexico. These are just different figurines. Utensils, ornate utensils for all kinds of things. Uh-oh. That creature with those big old teeth is eating that dude from the head, starting with the head. Damn, I'd hate to be that guy. Damn, man. As soon as he checks out, appears somewhere else, knows, oh, man, I just exited the Nemesis sim. Man, I got ate. I got ate by this damn giant leopard. I'm going back in. All right, that's unacceptable. I'm going back in. I'm not checking out like that. Look at these creatures. Look at these creatures. All these are Akamaro. What? You can just imagine that that's some type of Akamaro Mexican superhero right there on his trusted steed, Slowpoke. And they're going out doing all kinds of adventures. You don't even know how many times kids played with this. Yeah, man. This is the world they lived in. That's what art does. It expresses the world that you know. That's Akamaro. So the Book of Wonders that concerns a whole bunch of medieval phenomena and all that. Here's one right here. The year 1533. Where did they come from? Where were they going? They flew over Bohemia. Big dragons and little dragons. I know y'all remember this. This is in Glenrose. That's an actual Indian totem pole, and it shows dinosaur creatures on the totem pole. It's not fossilized. That's just wood. That's why they have it at the museum, because they got several totem poles that show dinosaur-type creatures. 8th century. Look at the date. 8th century. 8th century is in the dead middle of the Dark Ages. Can't make this stuff up, guys. 8th century totem pole right there in the middle of the Dark Ages, showing dinosaur-like creatures. This is a different totem pole. It's not the same one. These were at the Glenrose Museum. All the Native American accounts of giant winged reptiles that used to attack people. I don't know why that's there. Ica burial stone of a giant creature and a man fighting with an axe. He's fighting it with an axe. Here's riding a dinosaur. These are actual Ica stones in Glenrose, Texas. I don't know how their museum got them. Some of these are beautiful. That dinosaur, look at that creature right there. Yeah, tell me what that is. Tell me what that is. Big old giant Brontosaurus herbivore chewing on some plants. Just being peaceful. Chewing on some plants. And that is certainly a pterodactyl. Some of these don't belong in this collection. There's the Brontosaurus pots, North American. Pre-Columbian golden crown. Those are stegosaur. Those are ornate stegosauruses. We've already seen all this. Cambodian stegosauruses. Yeah, everything, all the animals and the people and all that stuff. We have all this anatomically correct forest animals, and they throw in these stegosauruses. It's another one. Here are the ichthyostones. Here's more ichthyostones. There's a triceratops. There's so many different ones that are recognizable here. Stegosaurus is at the bottom. Triceratops right here on the right. I don't know what the left one is. Look at this. Damn, that looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex eating that dude. Look. Look at that. I don't know how I missed that one. I don't know how I missed that one. That dude's in trouble. Yeah, man. I'm going back in, man. I got ate by a lizard. Okay. Baby Brontosaurus. Or that's a giant. Another Brontosaurus getting hit with a guy hitting him with a spear. So they were eating the Brontosaurus because the Brontosaurus was not an aggressor. The Brontosaurus is a herbivore. The ichthystone shows a Tyrannosaurus Rex right here. I'll be damned. Stegosaurus, Triceratops, and whatever that is. Another Brontosaurus getting hit with a spear by a dude. So it was a staple of their diet. Triceratops. Here is a little warrior with a spear attacking some type of giant lizard. Amazing. Again, we've seen these. We've seen all that. This is ancient Babylon. There's a still of the South American totem pole showing a dinosaur about to eat that guy. Yeah, I couldn't go out like that, guys. I exit the sim. I'll exit the sim, go out, have dinner with friends and family, and say, hey guys, I can't accept the fact, yeah, I checked out. I got ate by a lizard. I'm going back in. I'm not going out like that. I was on the menu. Here it is. Here's a depiction from the Dark Age period. Now it's actually a depiction of a story from the Roman times, but the story was retold during the Dark Ages. So I can't stress enough, if you're interested in knowing that evolution is total BS, that all relative dating methods from potassium argon, all the dendrochronology, the ice core dating, carbon-14, if you're interested in knowing how the whole stupid idea that carbon radioisotopes have maintained a stable breakdown for thousands of years and how it's all BS and how all these things are predicated off things that are untrue, this is the book you need to read. If you want to read about hundreds of archaeological things that have been found that absolutely disprove the evolutionary natural selection and evolution, the uniformitarian model, this is the book you read. It's like almost 1,000 pages. The Evolution Handbook, you formerly called Evolution Cruncher, is fascinating. You will get lost. The information is presented. It is just so compelling. You will learn all about the true history and nature of our world, all kinds of fossils that are impossible. It's impossible if these other things that we are taught are true. When you read this, you'll find out that dinosaur tissue, soft tissue has all been found. Brain matter has been found in prehistoric creatures in situ where they are. Most dinosaurs are found right there on the surface. Human skeletons are found even deeper. Everything we've been told is the exact opposite of the truth. Yeah. If you're ever caught in the water when one of those things are swimming around, Your lunch. You're on the menu. You are on the menu. Yeah, yes, sir. Truth is stranger than fiction. Another this is a good book, The Waters Above. That's where all these pictures came from. Waters Above, talking about the vapor canopy. It's a huge book. I should have showed it from an angle so you can see how thick it was. It's a huge book. But it's literally about the pre-flood world and the vapor canopy and how the vapor canopy totally changes everything. So Firth im Wald, Germany has a dragon slaying festival. It's called the Drachenstich. One of the oldest folk plays in Germany has been performed in this medieval city of dragons since the year 1590. The festivities include 1,000 locals dressed in historical costume, at least 250 horses, a hero knight and his wife who needs to be rescued from a 50-foot-long fire-breathing dragon robot. They do this every August, but the festival started in 1519, and most parades and festivals and traditions are the public social affair and institution that is created long after the real event has already transpired. So if this goes back to 1590, then it would have been in the Middle Ages when whatever inspired this tradition would have happened. Let's see, remains of a mammoth. Another really, what I found interesting about this is 1902. The body of this beast was found along the Berezovka River in 1902. There's that year again, guys. It's a Phoenix year, and it comes up everywhere. So remember, the mammoths were all taken out in a Phoenix year. Remember, I've showed you many archaeological excavations all over the world were ongoing on civilizations that were all taken out on a Phoenix year, and the archaeological excavations were being done in 1902. Archaeological artifacts and relics and ancient texts were all found in 1902 that have everything to do with past events when Phoenix messed off whole civilizations on Phoenix years. It's not a coincidence, guys. We live in a mathematical construct, and it's taking score, and it's keeping up with itself. This mammoth, found upright on the surface right here in 1902, was frozen solid in 2239 BC, the day the sky fell, when the vapor canopy collapsed and shattered like glass, and all these 200, I think it was 2 million or something mammoths were frozen solid, all from Alaska all the way to the Siberian tundra. There's Nessie again. Always hiding. Always hiding. St. George and the Dragon, medieval depiction right here. That looks like a dinosaur. Look how the artist did this. That's really detailed. This dragon keeps watch on a bridge. What is that? Ljubljana, Slovenia, I guess. The German Nibelungen saga. This would date to the Dark Ages. Look at this. I mean, it dates to the medieval period, but the stories it's telling go to the Dark Ages. Just like Beowulf fighting the Grendels, which were described as dragon-like hags in a swamp, man killers. The Geatish warrior went to help King Hrothgar of the Danes in the Epic of Beowulf. The whole thing happens during the Dark Ages. 1550, Sebastian Munster. I wonder if that's where we got the word monster from. Drew many sea monsters based on accounts of the explorers who had returned to Europe from the other side of the earth. Pretty cool. Highly imaginative. There's that picture again. We've already been through that. Oh, here there be many old maps say, here be dragons. That's pretty cool. Real cool, actually. So this is a scientific report. This is Larry Vargman, Christian Heritage College. The sky has fallen. 1986. Jason of Archaics did not invent the vapor canopy. As I've told you, I've cited all my sources in the past on my channel, showing you that this is well known. And this is a PDF that goes into a lot of detail about the how the sky fell and what really happened when the vapor canopy collapsed and how it totally changed the world. This is all interesting. Here's an abstract introduction. The Earth's atmosphere today. It talks about the increase of oxygen, increase of ambient radiation, increase of all these things are in this report. A biblical description of the pre-flood atmosphere. There was no rain. There was all this here. No sun. A mathematical model of the pre-flood atmosphere. Now they're getting into the technical stuff. Talking about the increase of oxygen, nitrogen, how the canopy affected biological life. Yeah, none of this is made up by me, guys. The increase of atmospheric pressure shown in the geological record, it's all here. Everything we've been taught is total bullshit. It's all untrue. Showing the canopy shielding and longevity, causing plants, animals, and people to live for long periods of time. Conclusions, recommendations for future research, bibliography. I'm probably going to throw this in one of my drives. Just throw that in one of my drives. So let me get out of here. Stop sharing. All right. So I just took you on a ride, basically a visual ride of what we found to be true. What we found to be true is the archaeology. What we found. Well, what did we find? We find that all these cultures feared gigantic creatures in the recent past. Yes, they did. Yes, they lived in the pre-flood world. Yes, they lived in the pre-Adamic world. Yes, they lived in after the Ogaigian period for a period of time. But we have this mathematical model called the Phoenix cycle, which I've shown on my channel over and over and over. And in that model, 522 is a part of that cycle. 522 started the great Justinian Darkness period, 25 years of earthquakes, volcanoes, all kinds of things. And then it led off into a longer period called the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages is amazing because it's literally a dark age. It's like the elite are telling us the truth by lying to us. They call it the Dark Ages when it was literally dark. It was a vapor canopy period. We had a vapor canopy period appear after 1687 BC, the Ogaigian deluge that lasted for a small period of time. We had the Great Mediterranean Darkness period after 1135 BC, from which we got our Atlantis narrative. 1135 BC was a darkness period. As a matter of fact, 350 years later, we have civilization reawakening, and it begins with the Greek Olympiad calendar, and then the Greek oracles, and then the Greek world begins to wake up, and then the Mediterranean begins to wake up. And this cycle is perfect. It's every 552 years. So we have this amazing situation that nothing happened after the Justinian Darkness period. Nothing happened in the 500s, 600s, 700s, 800s, 900s. Nothing happened, but in archaeology, we can see that now the pyramids and all the steels and everything in the Maya, in the dying Olmec, and then in the emerging Maya civilization, and they have all these monstrous beastly forms and all their pillars, everything now taking on these anatomical forms and all the reliefs. The pyramids have all these dragons and serpents on them. They have all this ornate stuff that never existed before. So we have all kinds of unusual alignments to buildings and structures that have nothing to do with the sun. All these researchers like Graham Hancock and Andy Collins and all that whole alternative weird dating everything by the zodiac and all that, they're all trying to show archaeoastronomy has value and that all these structures were aligned to the sun. It's not true. I've showed over and over that many of these streets and many of the pyramid sightlines all have you looking at where the sun was located on the horizon coming up in the month of May. In the month of May. Stonehenge as well. That's not me telling you that. Sir Norman Lockyer did. So we have a Dark Age period it is known to be a dark period of history of almost no literacy. There was a few historians that wrote things here and there. Civilization did continue, just like today. We have technologically advanced cities, and then a few hundred miles away, we have people that are still chasing rabbits with spears. It's the same thing today. But in the Dark Age period, literacy and civilization came down. It was real small. Very few people could read and write during the Dark Ages. Very few people. Literacy had almost collapsed. But all of a sudden, it's not a coincidence that all of a sudden the Vikings appear with their dragon ships on the world scene, coming out of the 800s and the 900s. Next thing you know, in the thousands, stone castles are being built everywhere. Churches are being built, but Jesus is Lord of the Mushrooms. And the churches all have dragons and serpents and demons and gargoyles, and they have all these things that are just unchristian. Not like the churches built 500 years later that have the saints and have all the gospel narratives and all the teachings of Jesus and all that. It's a very different type of deal. The cathedrals, these giant cathedrals, are now built all at the exact same time as the stone castles. The cities humans begin populating. The vapor canopy, the Dark Age vapor canopy has faded away. The sun has come out. Civilizations continue. Humans are now rapidly multiplying, and these giant reptiles and giant creatures are no longer a problem. They're now hiding in the lakes, the lochs, the fens, the marshes, and the bogs. Great forests. And in a 200-year period, humans come back with a vengeance and build cathedrals and stone castles, shipping in maritime shipping trade empires. They begin exploring, and they go to war with each other as well in the Crusades. And the great universities also appear, all in the 10th and 11th century. All these things appeared. And the descendants of the Vikings, the Normans are the ones spearheading the construction projects, the Mariner, and the Crusades. So that's my presentation, guys. It's up for you to make your own conclusions. But this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that we have been lied to on an epic scale. An epic scale. We're seeing this vapor canopy keeps coming back. And when it does, it changes our world. And then we emerge, and 200 years after a vapor canopy is gone, we don't even remember it anymore. We don't even remember it. Or there is an active police force here, like Charles Fort said in 1919, that is scrubbing the historical record as we live it, to ensure that future generations don't know what past generations actually experienced. But the archaeology doesn't lie. Humans domesticated gigantic reptiles. Humans were being hunted and eaten by gigantic amphibians and reptiles. The archaeological record doesn't lie. Those artifacts aren't even old. The Native American traditions tell of these giant beasts, hunting the giant beasts and being hunted by them. Yeah. So I started the presentation off. If giant trees still exist from a vapor canopy world, if humans are still gigantic all the way up until the 1960s and 70s, if we have giantism found in human skeletons all over, even though the Smithsonian and the U.S. government and other authorities have done such a great job in destroying most of the specimens, if we can show that all these things are true, now we find all these archaeological specimens that show that these giant creatures did in fact exist, and very recently. Eyewitness reports in Scotland and in the United Kingdom of all these bogs, fens, in lakes that had these creatures up until recently. So that's it. The Dark Ages was dark because it was a vapor canopy. The great Justinian Darkness of 25 years actually kept going. And that doesn't surprise me, because as a chronologist, I already know 522 AD, the Phoenix appeared. 522 AD, Nemesis X appeared. One of them is on a 138-year periodicity. The other one's on a 792-year periodicity. And never before in human history, in the last 8,000 years before 5000 BC and 8,000 years after 2106 AD, has either one of these objects ever been in our skies in the same year. I know, because I used a calculator and did a video on YouTube and showed you the chart. I showed you the chart going all the way back in time and going all the way in the future, and it never happens. But it happened in 522 AD, and in 522 AD is the 6th century AD, and according to scientists, it was the worst year in human history. It was the worst century in human history. Total world depopulation. That's my presentation, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry about the yawning. I'm wired up. I'm hyped now. But I was getting tired. Don't you bark at me, girl. That's my presentation. So we're going to hit this exit with the errant ad. We're going to do that right now. That was Michelle Johnson. I think it was Michelle. Yeah, Michelle Johnson. We're going to hit her ad. Remember, if you're interested in joining all the intensity and discovery and excitement of the Cypher group, man, archaics138@gmail.com. Remember, many of you asked for you don't mean that. Many of you asked for the children's fairy tales and all that stuff. So I kept the price super low, less than $10. The link is in the description box for the children's nursery rhymes. It's 1,048 pages. Big John took a long time to very carefully edit and photograph all those old books from the 1800s that we collected this material from. Also tomorrow I'm going live with an expert on human design. That's going to be fun. And I think that's all my announcements for right now. That's it.
To Synergetics Health and Wellness. This is Dr. Michelle Johnson. Today we are talking about getting more out of life through a guided process called recoding. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the noise of the collective or trying to break and start new habits, but you just can't break through, you're going to want to hear this. Learn how to create your own reality tunnel. With the recoding process, you can break free from limiting beliefs and shape your unique path via access to your superconscious. Tap into your superconscious and discover deeper insights. This is the highest level of consciousness, the part of you that knows what you truly want and what you are here to create. And it is accessible through intentional focus, command, or choice, rather than willpower or effort. Recoding helps you identify and reframe subconscious programming that holds you back, empowering you to embrace new possibilities. Contact me, Dr. Michelle Johnson, at Synergetics Health and Wellness. Call 702-240-3533 and unlock your potential today.